What's extraordinary for me about this love story is that in many ways it's the fantasy of love at first sight. It's sort of Romeo and Juliet. And yet Sebastian, and now Abby, has managed to ground it in something so beautifully real. What is wonderful about being able to do this over 2 90-minute episodes is being able to let this tension build in an unspoken way.
He listens to her and he's looking at her in a different way.
I just stood in the garden trying to stop myself from walking right inside.
It starts as observation and almost voyeurism at moments.
It's that first moment where you touch someone and that electricity just goes through you. And you've realised, oh God, I'm in trouble.
Are you lost to Wraysford?
No, Yes, I am. I think it's a connection of 2 souls. Stephen comes from this life of restraint. His world has not been a great one prior to arriving in Amiens. And in some ways he sees her in this new environment, and yet she is also restrained and restricted.
She's married to someone that she's not happy with.
I cannot bear them. Musicians of today are now satisfied with 4 notes they can sell on the song sheet on the street corner.
He is frustrated and that he gets abusive. She doesn't have any sex life with her husband.
There's a vacuum of passion that she's missing.
It's very beautiful.
Yes. It's almost a sign of how unhappy she is, how beautiful everything is, and how wonderful her dresses are, because that's how she found her way to sort of deal with what her life had become.
My sister is very dear, but I'm afraid you would be the one who is hurt.
By Jeanne leaving the Azaire house that day when Isabelle says, please stay, and Jeanne goes, no, I've got to go, and by doing that, I think is sort of complicit in saying, you must go and follow this passion now. It is something that has been so repressed and hidden, so that finally when they come to that red room, everything that has been held back kind of releases.
That first love-making moment was what her life was meant for, and I think sex can sometimes be as strong as that, and it changes you and you feel like a different person.
She's enlivened in him a great youthful spirit that may have not been there before and disappears again at the end of it. In the one sense, you have this beautiful start to a relationship and the fantasy of the utopia of a life living together, and then the reality of life kicking in.
If you go with him, you go to hell.
Isabelle, I think she's living a sort of life with comfort. She was attached to those 2 children she raised.
Dear mother, I am in good health, but we miss you. It's not the same without you.
And then she started a new life with Stephen, and it's probably very tough.
It's a surprise to anyone who reads that story, because they finally managed to get away. They're finally, and then she leaves.
There is something sort of depressingly real, I think, about it.
Isabelle!
The big question, why does she leave? You know, and I love that it's not explicit, it's not answered. But one of the sort of myriad of reasons is to do with his opinion on children.
Stephen doesn't understand family.
Having been an orphan himself and having felt that his lack of parental figure or guidance has left him at a loss, he's saying, no, I don't just believe you should just bring children into the world for the sake of it without thinking about the consequences. And of course she misinterprets that as him saying, I don't want children.
And having
I do not believe in bringing children into a world
what?
without the promise of keeping them safe.
I think it changes his vision of life. The highest point of life, which is love, when it's that passionate, and the high, like, and death at its most horrific form, are forging us and are making us what we are.
Steve.
Just left. Why?
I cannot.
When he finally sees her in the middle of the war, despite her wound, despite her fragility. I love the fact that he's uncompromising. He's like, why? And she's like, oh, the weather. Why? Oh, I couldn't explain. Why?
One day you'll understand why I did what I did. That it was for the best.
For him. For him. Well, you are the only woman that I have ever loved.
He's incredibly angry, and he goes and takes it out on a prostitute. I think trying to analyse in his own mind what is the value of passion and sex versus the other side that he thought he had with Isabelle, and so he takes out on this poor girl, maybe what he thinks of womanhood at that moment.
Among all these problems, they try to do something the best as they can. And I take care of this child.
She is 7. Nearly 7.
She might. And that's why she left.
I'm so sorry.
Maman?
I think it's uplifting because this man has realised that he has created something. He has purpose for his existence, and this is this little girl who has arrived out of an unbridled passion. It's also explaining that life isn't easy. It's not that unfortunately the romance wins through and that the passion wins through. I think we know that there is amazing qualities to all these aspects of love, whether it's passionate or caring or poetic or affectionate. All these things, they all have places within the spectrum of what that is, but what their value is depends on the people.